Okay, that one's been live now. Welcome everybody to this segment of HET, right? What does that stand for, Michael?
So this is our episode 3 of the Historic Village Theater podcast, and we are live here at KUHS Studios, and we have Holly in the house. I'm so excited. She runs Adventures in Dance, and actually my wife and I, Bonnie and I, have been doing some dance lessons with you, and it's been so fun, and just a great time. So will you tell us a little bit about Adventures in Dance and everything you're doing?
Certainly, Michael. So we take a dance adventure to foreign exotic places through the art of dance. You can travel south of the border with the tango, with the salsa, or you can travel back in time with the waltzes and foxtrots to days gone by. I also do everything in ballroom Latin, swing, salsa, country western, and anything involving a partner as far as dance. Then I also do historically accurate cartoon princess dances from antiquity all the way up to the contemporary or the 20th century. So check it all out at www.adventuresindance.com.
Yeah, and so with that, you sent us a message on our Historic Village Theater page, and that's how you and I got connected. And you were doing a dance in the carousel, and I saw the video, and so we started talking, and then we did one of our first HET talks, and you talked about the Trocadero. And so let's go ahead and start with some of the history that you've researched with the Elitch Gardens Trocadero.
Excellent. The Trocadero is really an exciting ballroom in Denver because Elitch Gardens, not to see Elitch Gardens was not to see Denver in the day. From the beginning, when they opened in 1890 to about 1917, when the Trocadero first opened, Mary Elitch would run dances there. She would run Tuesday afternoon dance lessons in folk dancing and in ballet for all the local children. She would do it free of charge. By 1917, you had John Mulhill took over Elitch Gardens for Mary Elitch. He was helping her out. And he built the Trocadero Room. This is right at the end of World War I, right? So we have the end of the world. We also have the end of an era, right? Your animal dances are now falling out of popularity. The only ones to survive, so you have turkey trots and bunny hugs and things like that. Prior to the war, after the war, we totally lose those. The only one that remains is the foxtrot and say maybe your Peabody, which is now up and coming at the end of the war. So the Trocadero Room is now built. It's a safe place for people to go and dance and interact. Everybody who is anybody goes to the Trocadero Room. They have a couple of house bands that play there.
Yeah.
They have a light-up sign, state of the arts. It would tell you what dance to the band, what dance the band was going to play next, so you could go get a partner and dance.
And we still have that box in the theater.
The light-up sign?
The light-up sign,
really?
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I'll be posting a pic of that today. So if you go to Historic Elitch Theater on Facebook, you can see the pic of that box. So
that would be
fabulous. So it's not in working order, but eventually that's one of our goals is to get that light box back up.
That would be really fun.
But the Trocadero, the building was absolutely beautiful.
It was amazing. It was 150 feet long.
Wow.
Just down, so it was, I think that's like a couple of football fields long.
Yeah.
But all the ballrooms prior to 1945 were very large, right? The Trocadero was huge. You could fit tons of people in it. So was the Savoy Ballroom, the Coconut Grove in California, and the Palladium Ballroom in New York. These were huge ballrooms. That's all the people did. You didn't have media the way we have it today. You would get together and you would sing and dance, basically. This is the history of dance from antiquity. You get together, you sing and dance. How'd you meet the opposite sex? You get together and you have a dance, right? The ballroom dancing or partnership dancing together was a big deal because a gentleman could hold a lady in his arms. Part of the dirtiness with the animal dances was you you could hug, you could get really close to them. And Mary Eilish would take a ruler and make sure people stayed an appropriate distance apart. You would not dance cheek to cheek.
So she would be on the dance floor.
Yeah,
and
she would be
making
on
sure.
She had dance hosts that
Yeah.
would go around and moderate, make sure people behave appropriately.
Oh.
If you want an example of what that looks like today, go to the Grizzly Rose and they have dance police that will make sure that you're behaving appropriately on the dance floor. Mostly that you have no drinks on the dance floor and you're not doing anything that would hurt other dancers.
Yeah.
But a big deal, say for instance, the bunny hug, because I know they can see us here. Michael, I'm going to embrace you. They would get close enough to be cheek to cheek. This was considered too dirty, or part of why these animal dances were banned.
Oh, okay.
Right? Or Mary Eilish would come in and measure the distance between people. They didn't care. She did not care if it was her uncle or not. Right? She would simply go, not too close, right? Until she passed. So in the you go along. So 1917, the Trocadero is built. By the 1920s, we have a whole new rage coming on. See, right? You've kept your foxtrot. You have Rudolph Valentino hits the theaters again with the Valentino tango. At the early 1900s, the tango was all the hit. But you had Apache tangos and violent tangos. And you have Rudolph Valentino, who is actually an expert Apache tango dancer, doing it on the big screen. Anytime you do anything in theater or big screen, it becomes the trend in real life. So the tango now is hitting, right? That people have a narrative. You have waltzes are still popular. They survived the war. Your Viennese waltzes, your Boston waltzes, they are all doing great. And then, of course, you have the Charleston, which is really exciting. This is out of the theater production Running Wild. It was a fabulous, fun, flippy, lots of kicks and things. Out of this comes our swing dances, our Lindy Hops in the 1930s. In the 1920s, you had a really fast foxtrot Charleston quickstep, which is now the quickstep of today, being danced around that integrates our Charleston. You have swing dances are starting to perk on the edge of society, so this is very exciting. Lots of invention, lots of fun things. So as you go in the theater, well, not in the theater, but in the Eilish Gardens, you have another mover and shaker, which is Arnold Gunther, which is the son-in-law, if I remember correctly, of Mulville. Am I right?
I'm not even sure.
I'm pretty sure that Arnold Gunther married Mulville's daughter, and that's how we have to change the name on the Trocadero, the Eilish Gardens. Anyway, he goes all the way. He wants to bring new bands in, not just the house band, but live, new blood. And it was a habit of the bands as they traveled from New York to California, to stop through Denver and play at Trocadero Ballroom. As they went, you have Arnold Gunther then goes to Chicago. He's looking for how they are booking bands at these other big halls. They actually have a meeting of amusement parks owners. So kind of like we have our groups get together today, like wedding professionals or radio
kind of like
professionals.
a planning committee.
Kind of. It's more like a symposium.
Okay.
So he gets together and he's meeting with people up there and he goes, I want to have more bands come through. So he meets with, of all things, Jules Stern, who is the originator of MCA. He goes, MCA Records, actually. Jules Stern, he goes, Jules, can you book bands for me? You book bands out here in Chicago. And Jules Stern goes, well, I don't have licensing for everything else. So Arnold goes, so get licensing and send me the bands. And that was the birth of MCA Records.
Oh, wow.
So you could basically say the Trocadero Room brought in MCA Records, which later had to give up their recording license to take on doing movie productions and became Universal Studios.
Oh, that's amazing.
As we know it today. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
You say it all
ties in.
Yeah, we can blame it all on Eilish Gardens. Wouldn't have all that without Eilish Gardens. So now your big band craze is coming along. You've got big bands coming through the Trocadero Ballroom, right? Then we hit the Great Depression, right? Everything is very, everyone's very, the bottom fall down.
Yeah.
So as a result, people are just very sad, and they do two things when they're sad. They go to movies, and they go dancing. So they keep going dancing at the Trocadero Ballroom. They still have bands coming through that save up their pennies. They live, they have a wonderful time dancing, all these great dances. And as we roll into the 30s, things start to pick up. You have some new dances, Lindy Hop enters the scene, right? So that's a really exciting thing. You have Whitey's dancers out of New York. You see these in movie productions now. There's Lindy Hopper's Face They're Dancing on, which is a performance troupe, doing all kinds of really wild things. They are, because you have this coming through, they're dancing and making movies, and people go, wow, that's really cool, I want to do that.
And they can do it at the Trot.
You can do it at the Trot. This is swing dancing was the only dance that the dance host would allow the dancers to be cheek to cheek. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you needed your appropriate distance between dancers.
Now, were they still doing checking with the ruler at that time, or?
That only lasted, as far as I could read, until Mary Elich passed.
Okay.
So once she passed, I don't know how strict they were.
Yeah.
But they do start to pick up on a different radio station. I know, I'm so sorry, it's not this radio station, but you had Rockin' at the Trop being aired every Sunday night. And so all these live big bands that were coming through, like, I want to say Tommy Dorsey, but I can't remember if Tommy Dorsey actually made it through. But all your big bands, I'm trying to remember the names of all the bands.
Well, Glenn Miller was one of them, right?
Yeah. Did Glenn Miller make it through? It was either Tommy Dorsey or Glenn Miller that got drafted, and he himself did not make it through, but their band did.
They did the movie,
right?
The Glenn Miller story,
right?
And that was shot here.
Right. I knew it was shot in the Trocadero before it was gone, so you can actually see some pictures of the Trocadero before they tore it down. So no, they continued to have big bands through. They were rotating through. It was RCA that was bringing the bands through Denver, so they go from New York to Denver to California. And it was wonderful. You have artists like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers flying down to Rio, right? Mm-hmm. And they did the Carcovia, if I remember correctly, it's the dance they did, which was a predecessor to the samba.
Oh,
right?
Cool.
Which was another popular dance in the 1920s, 1922, if I remember correctly. Then you see it come even more alive with Carmen Miranda in the 30s, right? The lady with the tutti-frutti hat, doing her boom, chicka boom, chicka chicka boom. And that was another reemergence of your samba. But then you have more with the Lindy Hop. You break into your sophisticated swing next, which is your West Coast swing, or the white man's version of the black man's Lindy Hop. Lindy Hop changes its name from Lindy Hop as we go into war in I know we ended it in 1940. No, we started it in 1945. It ended in 1945. World War II started. I know it ended.
She looks at me. I wasn't around yet.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it ended in 1945.
I know it
in 1939.
And yeah, thank you. That's when it started. That's what I thought. I'm like, I remember when it ended, but not when it started. But so as that hits, it changes our landscape. Right? We were just talking that some of the bands couldn't make it through because they were being drafted. Right? But we still have bands coming through. They're having a great time. They're still dancing. You've got West Coast swing coming in that 1945. You have Latin music like rumbas and cha-chas are hitting the market. All kinds of fun. Once again, coming through your movies. The movies were the big place to bring all these new dances onto the dance floor. You have your franchise dance studios, the dance teachers writing manuals to spread all this information, right? So you would write it down so you want to know how these dance trends got. They'd start, they'd find them somewhere cool, they'd write a manual, ship it off. Everybody would read it and be doing the latest and the greatest.
So does Dancing with the Stars use a lot of these former dances, or
100%?
100%.
Well, okay, so from a dance history point of view, okay, the ballroom dances as we know them today, what you see on Dancing with the Stars really took off around 1690 with the Lendler. This is the first dance in which a man embraced a lady in his arms. Big deal. Why it was so dirty, this is the Dirty Dancing 101, was because truly all of them were banned at some point or another. But the gentleman you're going from the minuet, where you stand side by side holding hands. You're not close enough to have an intimate conversation with the lady. No. In the Lendler, you grasp the lady in your arms. You are close enough to say, hey, babe, you want to meet me later by the crossroads? All right? Which didn't happen before. You had a chaperone. You could only have conversations in a chaperoned environment. This is what made the waltz so wicked and scandalous.
Oh, wow.
Right. So this Ländler then became popular around 1790 in Così fan tutte. And then, since it was a dirty dance in the day, right, you had English country dances, or if we think of Pride and Prejudice, all these called dances are what we now know as square dancing today.
Mm-hmm.
Then as you go into your Victorian era, you end up with polkas and waltzes and waltzes and polkas. Then you also end up with, as you go by 1857, you see the tango enter. I'm doing some research on the Spanish bolero that you see coming from this period too, to your later Cuban or Ganzon's bolero out of Cuba.
So this dancing, is it a form of nude?
Oh, that's funny. Depends on what culture at what time. Yes, out of the Latin cultures. It was your foreplay.
Yes.
To be able to become engaged, especially your boleros. So yes, throughout time, you could get close enough to a girl to determine if it was someone you wished to be with forever. Lots of marriages were made, where lots of people met.
So you get close and whisper sweet nothings in her
Sweet
ear.
nothing, sweep her off her feet.
And then she's like
Trocadero
out there
Ballroom.
laughing and twirling around.
And that's one thing that's really cool when we did the 125th anniversary. We did a night of the Trocadero.
Right.
And we did that in the old carousel shell.
Right.
And so there was children there, and then there were parents there, and then there was their grandparents there. And I talked to some of the grandparents,
Right.
and they ended up meeting at the original Trocadero, and they're married, and then the generations, and that's part of what the theater is all about, is getting those generations together.
Right.
And so to hear, that they met at the Troc, is just such a wonderful story that, there's these happily ever afters at the Trocadero.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm old enough to remember when I was a little boy looking inside the Trocadero.
Really?
Yes.
What was it like to you?
It was just
Grand.
in awe. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
the pic that we have behind us, that is the Troc. And when I see that, it's just absolutely on a grand scale, just beautiful.
And right outside, they used to have these curved mirrors and
Uh-huh.
this strange stuff. It's like I would just go stand and look at everything. I didn't know what I was doing.
And it was open, wasn't it? Just
Yeah, it was a great
yes.
open space. You
Yeah.
could have no poles supporting the roof. So it was a flat roof system with supports from underneath. The original floor they built was built over horsehair to create a floating floor or a cushioned effect for the dancers, okay? You would have those mirrors to reflect all your dancing or to make the hall look even grander or bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Which it didn't need to be any bigger, but it was a grand experience. Everyone would dress to the nines. You would wear your Sunday best when you would go dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Why, is this to pick up the chicks or what?
No, we're chick picking. That's what we're here for. Easter's coming. We're going to pick up the chicks. But, like my grandmother and grandfather used to dance there. My mother and father danced there when they were younger. So it was a big deal to go to the gardens and hear the ladies dance.
They shorten the day.
Yeah.
The Troc tonight.
The Troc.
Yeah. You're going to Troc to do some brush dancing, man. Okay. Which was the popular form of the Latin dances, was called crush, because you would crush as many people in to a hotel lobby and do your Latin dances, your rumbas, your cha-chas, your mambas, right? Your rumbas are a 1930s invention. Then you have your mambo hit the scene. Then you go to, by the 1950s or after the war, you now have everybody's gaga for cha-cha.
No, so she ain't playing fair. I mean, she charges the dance.
A diamond
She
dance
was
from
talking.
1930s,
She was talking about that was the big thing, right?
Yeah.
The diamond
Okay,
dance.
diamond dance. So, sorry, I keep messing with your mic. I need to put my hands in my lap.
She talks with her hands.
Yeah.
To the Italian background.
I hold mine back here.
So as you go. So by the 1930s, it was very popular to have taxi dancers. These were young ladies or gentlemen that would be paid a dime a dance to be able to dance with everyone in the hall. Right? This was a commonplace thing. You had your factory workers dating back, obviously, to the early 1900s. They would work all day. And then when they were done with work, they just want to go out and let their hair down.
Yeah.
It became popular to treat a young lady or a young factory worker out. This was not, they were not ladies of the night. They were simply young ladies that would escort gentlemen to the theater or to the Trocadero for a dance, and the gentleman would cover all her expenses if she would keep him company for the evening.
It's like that today. I mean,
But that's
Except
where
they're more
that's where you would,
expensive.
that's where the habit of taking the lady out.
I know, but if you're single at $7.29 for the night, if you're dating somebody's name, $99.
$7.20. Oh my God, there you go. You're a cheap date. I need to take you out more often. But you would have your dime a dance, and this was very popular. That all your good dancers, people that were desirable to dance with, would charge a dime a dance.
And was that from like beginners to intermediate?
They didn't care what level you were.
So you could just go in and you could even learn how to dance.
Most not at a dance.
Not at a dance.
You would not learn at the dance. Once you're at the dance, you want to be strutting your stuff, looking your best,
You
ready to
practice
present.
at home and
You would go to dance class. Remember, Mary Elich was hosting dance classes. They would have dance classes throughout the week at the Elich Gardens. This is where you would learn your hottest moves. Or you would go to your franchise dance studios, were the popular ones to go to at that time.
Yeah.
Or you would hire a private instructor that was an expert at dance.
a good-looking guy out there.
Right, of course.
At 10 cents a dance. It's like just trying to charge me.
For you, we'll
So
look
you-
at it
you
like,
want-
up, baby.
So you want to strut your stuff.
Right, you stretch your stuff. You
Yeah.
went to dance classes, you went to your dance studios, you learned all the moves. And it was incredibly important to know all of these different dances. So there was a methodology that dance teachers would teach several different dances so you could survive going out to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be said, you have to learn the waltz. If you learn the waltz, you can dance anything, which there is some truth. We cross-pollinate our steps from one style of dance to another, like the box step from the waltz, which was invented in 1835 in Boston, and then went back, and it was taken back to Europe, became a popular form of waltz as we know it today.
Now, is
So
that
that-
the one you were teaching Bonnie and I? The box
Yes,
step?
I taught you the box step.
Yeah.
Yes, you got that. Which, as you go, it was re-music. Then Arthur Murray took it. It wasn't popular to do the rumba the way they did it in Cuba, which is the way you would see the international rumba or on Dancing with the Stars. No, everybody knew the box. So Arthur Murray said, no problem. The student said, well, we don't want to do what our servants are doing. This looks like our servants dance.
Mm-hmm.
All right? No. Arthur Murray goes, no, you're smart. You know a box. We'll learn the box rumba. And then the American style rumba today now uses the same waltz box.
Oh, okay.
Scent of a woman. He used,
Argentine tango.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that tango's died like 7 times. It come to near-death experiences 7 times. It keeps rebirthing. Waltz, on the other hand, never truly died. Less popular at the end of the 1800s because it was granddaddy's dance, but then came back again.
And what's the most popular dance, ballroom dance?
Today,
The waltz? Still
I
the
would
waltz.
say, well, okay, waltz survives to today, and it lives to today because you will still use it at weddings. All right, you still use it in the country western clubs. You have 2 main styles that are mainstream right now. 3, I'll call it 3. The first would be country western. Here we see a lot of that in Colorado.
Yeah.
That's a big style. All of my old dances have made its way to the country western bar. So everything I saw, so say Mary Elich used to have to big band music, your Victorian two-step. Well, parts of that live today in the country western dance club.
And that's with
And a
the
couple-
line dancing.
Country western triple two-step
Oh, okay.
would be your iteration or the variation that came out of that. The Lindy Hop is also a variation off of that. In that, like your schottish was triple step, walk, 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 walk.
Mhm.
Right?
And so where does the line dancing come?
Excellent question. Line dancing, we've had variations of line dancing throughout centuries, right? In the Middle Ages, we did it in a circle line. Okay? We had your Tacit Duchesses, your Maltese brawls, or they were called brawls, brawl the original. We would know that as Ding Dong Merrily on High today. Da, 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 da. That music dates back to your Middle Ages. and you hold hands and do a bunch of steps repeatedly over and over again, always the same thing. Then as you go through history, so we're rocking at the truck, we got great times. We don't fall on hard times for a long time. But let's say we fast forward to, say, the 1960s, right? We start to have some new dancing, right? We have several things happen. You have Fania Records takes over and wants to do something new with the market. They go, we got Latinos we can market to. Let's do Latin music. What are we going to call it, sirs? Mambo's not popular anymore. Let's call it salsa. It sounds spicy. Tito Puente said, salsa, my dear, is a condiment, not a dance. But they said, those Americans, they can't dance on beat two. All your mambos are 2, 4, 2, 4. Let's dumb it down for the masses. Go 1, 3, 1, 3. So your salsa and your Latin music really takes off in the 1960s. You also have, by the 70s, you have disco, right? And in the disco was a return, but before that you have all these line dances coming in during the disco era. We know the electric slide, baby.
You're always doing the electric slide at the weddings. I know you.
Yes, I'm doing them
she
all.
She loves the wine dances and she's out there.
You go, baby. The electric slide, right?
That never ends.
No. But that's the beginnings of all of that. As you go through, you have those line dances picking up there, but now as you have country western dancing didn't pick up until the 1940s, right? It was all your square dancing before that, which was my English country dancing before that, right? So you've got a batch of square dance in Texas. Go, yo, baby, let's pick up that collegiate foxtrot. Let's try this in Texas. And
so that's where it began?
This is where your country western begins, right? They do the collegiate foxtrot. They're doing it in Texas. You know what they call it? Texas two-step. So we're now two-step, and your two-step is a spin-off of the foxtrot from the early 1900s.
Wow.
And everything in your country western bar is a spin-off of something from the ballroom. But you have your swing dancing coming in, or swing dancing hit with all the rage in the 1940s, right? Everybody's swinging. By the 1950s, we have what happens? Television. Right? This is a big deal. My grandfather, Robin Compton, was on the original RCA team for the very first television. TV number 1 was in my father's house with channel number 1. This is why no TV starts with channel 1. It starts with channel 2. RCA owns channel 1 as their test channel.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I've been in television
for a long time. Yeah, right. So television hits the market. With the end of the war, Congress put a 33.5% tax on all dance halls on a federal level. Now think of that on a federal level.
So we need to wrap it up. It's 11:57. But one thing I do want to say is to tie into television, we're doing an open mic variety show that kind of the idea goes back to Ed Sullivan and his variety show and kind of where that whole started.
Right. You have Ed Sullivan. You have, actually, Arthur Murray had his dance show on television. You also had Lawrence Welk. This was a big deal, bringing music and dance still to all the masses, so everybody would watch TV for their moves and not necessarily go into a studio. You also see the downsizing of your bands. You lose your big bands and you pick up your rock bands.
So what happened to the Troc?
So the Troc was going along, but
that tax too, right?
That tax was awful.
Yeah,
it was awful on all dance halls. They actually survived it pretty okay. They were fine. The real killer was it is now more expensive to bring bands in, but it's not as popular. Everybody is going to rock clubs now.
Oh, okay.
And they're not coming in for big band and dancing anymore, so you don't have enough populace coming through the door. They changed as best they could with the times, but by the time you hit the 70s, everybody's freestyle dancing.
Yeah.
And you don't have as much touch dancing going on, so you cannot drive the crowds to support the big bands in the Trocadero, so they had to close their doors by 77.
And that I haven't looked up when the exact date of the closing of the Troc, so I'm not sure what that date is, but I could definitely look.
I know it was in the 70s. I think it was 1977. I'd have to look it up too. But So then by then they had to close their doors. They could no longer run dances and have events there. But it has to do with how the culture changed. And we went away from people getting together and touching one another.
They still do it.
Well, now with you talk about rock, it's more of everybody jumping around
Right,
and just doing their own freestyle and
do the mosh pit and carry
that mosh pit.
Everybody's, touching
What
each
my
other.
students call is pogo stick dancing. You just jump up and down, right?
Yeah.
Where you see touch dancing today is in your salsa clubs, right? In your country western club, and in your swing club. There's still a revival for swing dancing. We see all three of those here in Denver, and they're all great forms of partnership dancing.
So it's 12 o'clock, so tell us where we can find you once again.
Once again, you can find me in historic downtown Littleton on the super secret second floor of the Woodlawn Shopping Center